Hey, Bill Walker here. Another typical noisy day in my neighborhood, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you an idea of my looping rig and in the signal path. And it starts here with this little tiny Strat-sized guitar. This is the guitar I've been using today. This is an old instrument of mine I've had for a number of years. It was originally a Stuart McDonald kit. It's a really short scale instrument. You get the perspective on there. Okay, so that goes to an Ernie Ball VP Jr. And then that signal goes to the first thing in line is an audio processor. This is an Old World Audio 1960 compressor. I just got this. I've been waiting a long time for it. And these are handmade and hand-tuned in Los Angeles area by a guy named Rodney Davis. And these were designed to be sonically and a response similar to the LA2 compressor of Legend and Lower, the great studio compressor. And this is an amazing compressor. One of the best I've ever heard. Probably the best I've ever owned, certainly. And I have Henry Kaiser to thank for turning me on to this wonderful piece of gear. This is a very subtle compressor. This is not your typical Dynacomp that will completely kill the dynamics of your signal. These are very transparent and super clean, like a studio high-end compressor should be. Next I go to the Ethos Overdrive. This is a really great two-channel, essentially amp in a box if you want to run it direct like I'm doing now, or also works great in front of tube amps. Clean channel, lead channel, boost, and complete bypass. If I'm running acoustic guitars, I usually bypass it. Then the first effects modifier in the chain is a Line 6 M5 stomp box modeler. I mostly use the delays, but I use some of the extra effects it has too. There's a whole bunch of them in there. Yeah, you can use one at a time. I also use the tuner, and I run a MIDI clock to that as well. More on that later. And then the signal goes to this processor, an Eventide Time Factor. As good a floor delay as you can find on the market right now, in my humble opinion. Its ducking delay is to die for. And then next in line is a wet stereo reverb by Neunaber Technology, made down in LA. This is the best tiny reverb I've ever found. Also, thank you, Henry Kaiser, for turning me on to this wonderful product. This sounds like a great rack reverb, and it also has two expression pedal ports. I'll show those in a minute. So from there, my signal goes to a DTAR Solstice preamp. This is a great, very clean acoustic preamp, but it also doubles as a Swiss Army knife. It's my effects router for my looper, and I can also run some mics into it in a pinch if I need to use those. And then just above it, that purple machine, that is the Looperlative LP-1. It's an 8-track stereo looper with two extra auxiliary stereo outputs. It's my looper of choice. One day I may go the laptop route, but for now this thing is working fine for me. You can see some tracks are already armed. Green lights represent tracks that are on. I just happen to have the volume down now. And red tracks are ones that are currently off. Okay, so that's the signal path. Now let's talk about the MIDI path. I'm sending MIDI commands via my main MIDI control pedal. That's the gordius little giant, and that's sending MIDI out to the Looperlative MIDI commands. But I'm also using, in conjunction with this product called the Missing Link, which is an OSC to MIDI translator, I am using an old Edge technology iPhone that a friend of mine gave me to control extra functionality as well. Tied to the gordius, I have two expression pedals that are plugged into that, one assigned to the feedback of the LP-1, one assigned to the volume level of the LP-1. Let's turn that up a little bit right now. Now tied to that, I've got some group commands on this touch phone. Let me switch one out.
In addition to the program change mode pad I have here, there are also fader arrays that you can use. For various fun. And this app is called Osc Touch, and it allows you to configure MIDI commands or any kind of commands for any kind of other app, but in this case I'm using it to control a hardware looper. Incidentally, from the Looperlative I'm sending MIDI clock out back to the Eventide and on to the M5. Tied to the Eventide, I also have some extra foot switches, courtesy of a Voodooman foot switch, an EV-5 Roland pedal tied to the Eventide for real-time control, 2 pedals for the wet reverb, one for mix, one for the depth, which cycles through the algorithms, and this little black pedal you can hardly see is made by R3FX. That's actually in lieu of an expression pedal. It gives me a double preset capability for my M5 Stompbox modeler. And that's it, folks.